Welcome, and thanks for joining us for the Business and Dinner Etiquette PowerPoint. Suck it up and eat another roll, avoiding the dining etiquette pitfalls that can derail your professional aspirations. Emily Post says, all the rules of the table manners are made to avoid ugliness. To let anyone see what you have in your mouth is repulsive. To make a noise is to suggest an animal. To make a mess is disgusting. I want to make sure everyone understands that this is not about classism, but about making you and the others not feel embarrassed when dining with you. When you arrive to the table, it's best to sit as a group. Sometimes the service staff will pull out the chair and even go as far as to place the napkin in your lap. That's okay. Just go with it. The nicer restaurants take pride in their work, and if you graciously accept their gesture, it makes the event much smoother. The napkin. Whether on the plate or to the side of the plate, you should open it, fold it in half on the long ways, and place it across your lap. It's meant to protect your clothing. Some service staff will gently fold the napkin over the back of your chair. That's okay as well. Just pick it up before you sit down to avoid having to turn around to get it. When eating, your extra hand should stay in your lap while not attending your food. Don't rest it on the table. No one's trying to steal your food. You won't need to protect it. Once you've begun eating, wipe your mouth and wipe it often. Dabbing your mouth, not wiping. If you need to wipe your mouth, use the napkin with both hands, cover your entire mouth, and wipe down, pulling it down and together to catch any food or liquid within the napkin. Think. You've just wiped food or liquids on that part of the napkin, so when it goes back into your lap, remember to fold that edge of the napkin face up in your lap to avoid getting it on your clothing. If you need to get up from the table, after excusing yourself, of course, and plan on returning to the meal, leave the napkin folded onto itself on the seat of the chair. And we'll touch on this again shortly. This diagram shows a full place setting. Take notice of all the utensils and glasses on the table. The trick when placing silverware, if you're hosting the party, was always taught to me is to notice the letters for each utensil. The fork has 4 letters, F-O-R-K. So does the word left, L-E-F-T. So forks go on the left. Knife and spoon each have 5 letters, and so does the word right. So if you can remember this, you'll always get it correct each time you set the table. Smaller utensils are always to the outside of the place settings. So when the courses for the meals arrive, you will work your way from the outside in with each course. Dessert utensils are always closer to the center of the table. This setting has champagne flutes. These you'll only see at more formal engagements as weddings and other celebrations. The water glasses will always be the largest of the glasses. And when you look at the 2 wine glasses, between the 2, the red glass will be larger and more rounded at the bulb of the glass. White wine and champagne are served chilled, so you should always hold the glasses by the stem as to not warm the beverage and alter the flavor by the heat of your hand. Red wine is usually served warm or at room temperature, and some wines are enhanced by that subtle heat of your hands. So if you're not ever sure, err on the side of caution and just hold all the glasses outside of the water glass by the stems. And you can notice on this place setting there's no room for cell phones on the table. Don't forget to silence your cell phone when you arrive at the restaurant and keep it in your pocket or your bag. Sharing the wealth. Once everyone has been seated and the food starts to arrive, condiments will be added to the table. It's normally the custom to share to the right, but let's be real. We all know it might never make it back. Someone on the other side of the table won't know proper etiquette and keep it going. So, we take the condiment in front of us, offer it to the left, holding the dish, allowing that person to take from that dish. Then you take your share of the dish, and then again offer it to the right, holding the plate again, and allowing them to partake. From here, the person to your right will continue to pass it around the table. Hopefully, everyone will follow this, and everyone should get their fair share of the condiments on the table. Salt and pepper should always be passed together. When adding sugar or lemon to your water or tea, you will hold the lemon with one hand, cup your other hand over the lemon while squeezing it to avoid it getting on your plate or someone else's plate or the tablecloth. Do not put the lemon in your glass. Once you're done with the lemon, place it on your saucer or plate. If you use a spoon to stir the lemon or sugar that you add to the glass, the spoon stays in the glass. I know this seems odd, but the linens are not for dirty utensils or stains. If you want to avoid the spoon in your glass during your meal, consider not adding the lemon or the sugar, or just avoid stirring the mixture. All right. It's okay to share a good meal, especially if you know the dinner guests, but be discreet. Breaking bread. When you get your bread, roll, and butter from the dish, as we just learned about taking your share, place the appropriate amount on your plate or saucer. When you get bread, break it into bite-sized pieces, usually one at a time for each bite, and butter the piece just before you eat it, which means you'll be buttering, you'll be buttering each bite as you break it. Of course, biscuits, garlic bread, and cheesy bread don't follow this rule. And it's best to take smaller bites during the entire course of the meal. This will ensure that you can finish the bite in a timely manner and stay engaged in conversation. Wouldn't it be poor manners to have the conversation come to you when you have a large mouthful of food and make everyone wait for you to finish? Or worse yet, you want to engage and miss the opportunity because you're trying to finish a large bite. To engage over the meal is the entire point you're there. While in Rome, drink the wine. These moments you'll need to be mindful of multiple things and follow etiquette. If you are of legal drinking age and the host sets the tone for the dinner and orders alcohol, then you can consider ordering some yourself. Know the culture. Does the host drink? Do the other guests drink? Is it a religious function? Or even are you meeting someone for the first time? If you do partake, know your limit. Do you want to allow yourself to get too comfortable with your audience? Usually one drink will suffice with the meal. If you are the guest and the service staff doesn't refill your glass, it is the host that should. If you are the host, it's your job to carry the responsibility of the meal. And this goes back to knowing your limits. Don't get too caught up with conversation or consume so much that you miss providing for your guests. The great wait. You should not start the meal until everyone has their food. The only exception to this is if an order is incorrect and needs adjustment and the guest states that everyone should continue with their meal. And usually they will say, "Please eat, don't let your food get cold," or something to that effect. Buffet etiquette. There's only a few things to consider when eating at a buffet. You should go as a table for more formal settings, especially, not so much for more casual affairs. Make sure you don't arrive back at the table with a heaping plate of food or overly large quantities of one dish. And when you go back for seconds, pay attention to all the guests at the event. You should not be going back for seconds before everyone has had a chance to get their first plate. Soup. There should be a soup spoon in your place setting, but if there's not one, it should arrive with your soup, and possibly a fresh napkin as well. Depending on the service and/or restaurant, the soup spoon will always be the more rounded spoon in your setting. It's that shape for a reason. So when eating soup, you should always scoop the soup away from you, dabbing the excess on the rim of the bowl before raising the spoon. If the soup is hot, don't blow on it. Just hold it away from the rest of the soup, just above the bowl to let it cool. And remember, no slurping. I know in some cultures it's okay to make slurping sounds, but just again, err on the side of caution and just don't. If the soup bowl has small handles on the sides, you're free to pick it up and drink the remaining contents. If not, and you want to get the last bit, raise the bowl on a tilt, just a little, making sure to tilt the bowl away from you, scoop the soup away from you with your spoon, and then consume. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, just leave the last little bit in the bowl. The soup should be placed on the saucer, the soup spoon, should be placed on the saucer or in the bowl at the 4 o'clock position to communicate to the service staff that you are done with the course. Tricky little shrimp. Take note to these helpful tips and you'll be just fine. Appetizer shrimp may be eaten with your hands, up to the tails. But watch out for that cocktail sauce that usually accompanies the shrimp. You might refrain from attempting this if your attire is more formal. Appetizers come at the beginning of the meal, so you might be wearing that stain the rest of the evening. Entree shrimp should be cut. Usually once they're cooked, the tails can be eaten if you choose. Don't ever, and I mean ever, dip your food in the communal sauce. Remember a few slides ago? We take and add it to your plate. Eat from there. If you have peel and eat shrimp, peel gracefully and add the shells to your plate and keep it looking tidy. If it's a shrimp boil or something more casual, everyone knows you're going to get it all over your hands. Don't lick your fingers. Use that napkin often. Who wants to shake hands after dinner with someone who has shrimp-smelling hands or someone that's just licked their fingers? Don't do it. If you were invited out to a meal, especially a business meal, follow the lead of the host, but you'll always need to keep a few other things in mind, things that might be outside your normal thought process. Order in the middle of the menu or below, and we're talking about price here. You have to consider the other guests and the company. Are they a religious company, a nonprofit, or a state entity? Let them know you are conscious about the price and their budget. Also, state entities have specific guidelines to follow. Going back a few slides, alcohol comes in mind here. Should you order, even if the host does? Be mindful and use your best judgment. Wouldn't it be awful if you ordered something and the host had to make a correction to your order because of the price? If the host makes a recommendation for a specific meal choice and it's within your comfort zone, consider ordering it. But save the adventurous choices for another time. Order something easy that you know you'll like. Avoid salads if you know you aren't the best at eating them in front of others. Long pastas are tricky as well. Finger foods. Well, pay attention to what everyone else is ordering. If they order finger foods, enjoy. But don't be the only one at the table eating with your hands. Of course, avoid the teeth stickers. Nothing's more embarrassing than having someone tell you that you have food stuck in your teeth. Or worse, they don't tell you. And avoid the obvious conversation killer known as French onion soup. Continental versus American style. Know the difference. Whichever you choose, you're going to stay with for each course. Continental style is where you hold the fork in your non-dominant hand with the tines facing down and the knife in your dominant hand, using the knife as a means to get the food onto the fork. Also, the utensils never switch hands. American style is where you hold the knife in your dominant hand to cut the food while your non-dominant hand pierces the food with the fork, and then you switch utensils to take the bite. This should be done with each bite. Don't cut all your food apart at once. You should cut the food for each bite. It's a fork, not a shovel, so watch those bites. And do you know the proper way to hold a fork? If not, look it up. This is vital information and will show at the table. An extra takeaway? Do not use a spoon when twirling spaghetti. Use the side of the plate or the bowl. The only exception to this is if they bring you a spoon with the meal. Here we have the cumbersome foods. Cherry tomatoes, salad, or whole. Spear them with the fork using your knife as a barrier to push against. You may cut them in half or eat them whole. If they are in an entree and cooked, they should be easier to eat whole. Peas. It's a trap. Never mash them. The trick I always use when I order peas is to order mashed potatoes alongside. But potatoes make the perfect glue for transporting the peas. French fries, it all depends. If eating other finger foods such as hamburgers, then they're finger foods. If you're eating steak or grilled fish, use the knife and fork. Spaghetti, to spoon or not spoon. Again, on the last slide, we learned not to use the spoon unless a spoon comes with the dish. But instead, you can use the bowl or plate as a barrier while you twirl it. Or just think about not even getting spaghetti. It's messy. And so everybody loves bacon. If it's real crispy and you can cut it with a fork, do it. If it's not crispy, use your hands. Heck, I'll never tell you if you eat both kinds with your hands. It's bacon. Cut and eat your meat one bite at a time. This not only looks better when dining with others, but makes you aware of keeping those bites small enough to engage in the conversation. Put the utensils down between bites and keep that other hand off the table. Remember that one? Oftentimes we get really comfortable at the table and engaged in conversation and forget our manners. And we're going to be using those utensils a lot. Don't get so comfortable that you point with them. Cut that salad into manageable pieces. Olives with pits? Here's the proper way. Eat the olive whole, and when the pit is ready, the pit goes back onto the fork and then move to your plate. Asparagus is not a finger food at a business meeting, no matter what. Elbows do not belong on the table while eating. How many times have we heard this? However, between the courses and after the meal is fine. Sit straight in your chair and do not slouch. Pushing in your chair close to the table helps with this if you think you might slouch. If your fork or napkin falls, leave it. Don't ever pick up anything from the floor at the table. Just motion to the service staff, be discreet, and ask for a new one. If your drink spills, act fast, cover it with your napkin, apologize, and ask for a new one. If you spill something on someone, of course apologize, and then offer to pay for their dry cleaning. These are all things our parents tried to teach us early, and some of them stuck, maybe some didn't. Here's your refresher. Don't salt and pepper your food until you taste it. It's an insult to the one who prepared the food if you do. Avoid asking for ketchup, except for those obvious foods that it complements, like hamburgers and such. It's also an insult to put ketchup on food that wasn't prepared to get it. This goes for steak sauce too. Unless it's already on the table, don't use it. And to be honest, I'd avoid it then too. A well-seasoned steak should not require any condiments. If you didn't know this already, the service staff is your best friend while dining. And we'll touch on this again. Let's say you order something going out of your comfort zone, or you're in an exotic restaurant in which you aren't familiar with the food. Just eat around the food you don't like, or fill up on the bread. If you ordered something and they brought you the wrong food, you can do one of a few things. You can politely let the staff know and they should bring you the proper food, or if it's something you think you might like, just go with it. Just make sure the bill reflects it if the price was severely different. I encourage you to not make a scene. If your utensil isn't clean, simply get the server's attention and point to the utensil. They will pick up on it quickly. Same goes for bugs and hair. Let's hope this doesn't happen, but it does. For finer restaurants, how you place the utensils and napkin communicates to the staff your intentions. This should be used at all restaurants. Just make it a habit at every meal and set yourself up for success. The position of the knife and fork in the diagram is using the American style, which has the fork tines facing up. If you are just resting between bites, getting a drink, or engaging in conversation, you will use the resting position on the left. If you're done with your meal, you use the 4 o'clock position to the right to let the service staff know you've completed your meal. This goes for all courses of the meal. Tea and coffee usually come with the last course, which should be dessert. If you have tea, don't do the trick where you hold the bag with a spoon and wrap the string around it. Just remove it from the cup and place it on the saucer. The linens are not to be stained. If you have a place setting that already has the coffee or tea mug on the table and it's upside down, if you want coffee with the last course, just simply turn it right side up. This will let the service staff know that you would like coffee. Some will turn the coffee mug upside down when you're finished. Don't do this. Just leave it. If you use a spoon to add condiments to your drink, just leave the spoon on the saucer. It's pretty simple. It's all about the wording. If you want to take someone out for a meal, the intent is that you're paying the check. Make it clear if you are the host, saying, "Would you be my guest next week?" If the intent is that you want to meet with them and you want to split the check, say, "Would you like to split lunch next week?" I know it sounds odd, but being transparent like this helps avoid uncomfortable moments after the meal. Also, think about who you're inviting. Again, if it's business and they work for an entity that has to follow certain rules about how much they can accept, consider asking them ahead of time. Choose a known location. Keep their tastes or any dietary restrictions in mind. Make a reservation to save on time. And confirm the meeting the day before. If you have something in mind you want to discuss, make mention ahead of time so they come prepared. Don't put them on the spot or waste the meeting time. Just be considerate. Before you arrive, if you are the guest, confirm the location and address with the host, either the day before or the day of. Allow for plenty of time. Do not be late. To prepare for emergencies, let your family know you'll be out of touch during the meal, and if you have food allergies, always be prepared. Dress appropriately. It's okay to ask the host what the attire will be. They won't be offended, and you'll feel more comfortable knowing. Turn your cell phone to silent and leave it in your pocket or your purse. Is there an exception to this rule? Of course. If you need to check it for personal reasons, excuse yourself and check your phone in the lobby or the restroom. The only true exception to this rule is if you are waiting for something like an email or phone call that is pertinent to the meeting. If you are the host, you want to wait in the lobby until all or most of the guests arrive and be seated together. If you are a guest, you'll wait and follow the lead of the host. If you have several guests and you're early, wait until your reservation time and sit down together. The host negotiates the table location and may also guide the seating arrangements. If there's a guest of honor, seat him or her accordingly. Some restaurants will want to seat you. If you choose to go ahead and be seated, make sure you are seated facing the entrance so your remaining guests can find you easily. It's always best to let the hostess know that you are waiting for more guests to arrive, and you can even give a simple description of them to help the hostess and let the guests feel more comfortable. We touched on this in a previous slide, but just to reiterate, consider arranging for payment before the meal to avoid the uncomfortable conversations. Whoever asked for the meeting should pay, unless it was clear it was a Dutch treat. Don't fight for the bill. Just offer to pay and make the simple gesture that they can pick up the bill for the next meeting. If it goes back and forth and in front of the service staff, just say, "But I invited them," to finalize you paying for the check. The awful situation of being stood up. There's a way to handle this. Do not fret and don't get your feelings hurt. I am sure there's a good reason. Allow them 15 to 20 minutes to arrive. Don't eat without them. If you leave the restaurant, leave a note with the maitre d' for the guest. If they do show up late, the note will explain that you left but you'd like to reschedule. Be sure to leave a tip for the service staff for holding the table. They're expecting a tip based on the price of the food ordered, and you ordered nothing. When you hear from your guest, graciously accept their apology. If you are the one that stood up your host, apologize to them, reschedule the meal, and pay the check. Okay, everyone, these are just the basics. Lipstick? Not at the table. There's a restroom, and it's called powdering your nose. Do not play with your hair at the table. Again, go powder your nose. If you don't know this term, look it up, for use and for recognition. Runny noses? Don't use your napkin. Go to the restroom if it's a big deal. Passing gas? Absolutely not. Not ever. You can excuse yourself without announcement if you have these situations, and be discreet upon your return. Because we're talking about business etiquette, I want to drive home these essentials. The meal is ideally saved for relationship building and getting to know one another, which means you can speak about family, hobbies, interests, and other topics outside of business. Don't take it too far. Keep all those bags, briefcases, and such off the table. If you know you're going to need some papers, get them out ahead of time in the lobby or the car. If you're going to use laptops, be discreet. Consider asking the hostess for a corner table or something more discreet, as to not bother the other guests in the restaurant. If you must use your cell phone, be polite and quiet. Better yet, excuse yourself from the table, step outside. Don't check your phone for messages or texts while on the business meal, unless you're waiting for that vital information, about the meal, the other guests, or some documentation that's necessary. The tipping points. If it's a large party, most restaurants include the gratuity in the bill. You don't want to tip twice. If they have it separated out, follow these standards. If it's a waiter, the minimum is 15 to 20% before the tax total. If it was great service, we now tip between 25 and 30%. The wine stewards receive 15 to 20% based on the price of the wine. Bartenders 15 to 20 based on the drink tab. Coat room attendants receive $2 for the first coat, $1 for each additional. Parking valet is $2 to $5. And here's a great tip for valet. If you want to say a final farewell to your guests, consider arriving at the valet first. Say your farewells as each guest waits for their car, and you can tip each valet as their cars arrive. It's just a great way to end the night. A few afterthoughts. Thank you notes are a must for both parties. Please don't start the notes with the words, "thank you." Touch on something that you spoke about during the meal. Make it more personal. You want your guests to feel welcomed, and you also want to be appreciative for the invite. So don't send them a bland thank you note. Reciprocation of a thank you note is not in order, but it might be helpful if you're wanting to build a better business relationship. Thanks for joining us. And if you want credit for watching this presentation, take the quiz. You can find the quiz on our webpage at CLA Career Services.